Okay, today we will analyze the concept of dashboard. We will look into some components of dashboards, and then we will see how to develop a basic dashboard in SAP Dashboard 4. So prior to going to the components of SAP Dashboard and develop a small dashboard, we will very briefly cover the basic concepts of dashboard. As you can see, dashboard is a visual display of the most important information needed to organize certain data and consolidate and arrange in a single screen. So you can see here there are three dials and they're interactive. So you can move the slider and see the effect of sales on others such as inventories and cost of goods sold. So a dashboard will contain different kinds of components. For example, selectors. Um, Examples of selectors are combo box or sliders that you see in this particular page, or checkbox. So once you select a data, then you would be allowed to display it either in certain forms. Here you can see dials. Dials are actually allowed or used to basically show a single value. For example, you're seeing that sales is a particular value, $456. You can customize a dial by setting up a range. So if a sales is in a certain range, then you can say that's not good. Similarly, a green indicates good sales. Here it shows that cost of goods sold is in red, so that means that's not a good indicator. These indicators can be um, created in the beginning in SAP dashboard in the dial components and then customized. So you can use dials, you can use bar charts, pie charts, line graph, tree graph, and there are tons of other things. You can also use maps to display data. The most important concept of dashboard is you should not use too many components such as these. It should not look cluttered, and whatever you create should be interactive. More importantly, the components and the complete dashboard should be able to help solve a particular business problem. Here, the problem could be to identify the relationship among sales, inventories, and cost of goods sold and see how they interact among each other. If there is no interactiveness in a dashboard, probably there is no need to create a dashboard. You can simply create a report or something like a few bar charts or something like that in an Excel and then just print it out. Unless there is an interactiveness, unless there is insights that you can obtain from a dashboard, there is no need to create one. Here's another example where you see there are three components, interactive components. So if you move the slider here, you would be able to see the effect of it on these two. So there are a lot of other examples like this, and what we will do is we will explore the basic concepts of SAP dashboard by looking into SAP concepts. So the first thing that we would do is to understand the basic concepts of SAP dashboard. What does it look like? How to create one? How to bind the data? And then once we are comfortable understanding those, we will create a dashboard using a particular database. Our objective in this case is to create a sales dashboard. As you see here, we first draw it in a conceptually that, okay, we will first select a country, one of these two. Whichever country we'll select, we will be able to see the data. And then we will drill it down to a line graph where if we select a particular type of bike, we will be able to see the detailed sales for several years for that particular bike. To understand how the dashboard will function, let's look at the output of it. So after we create a sales dashboard using the concept that we showed or discussed earlier, let's see how it should work. So if you select a country, for example, if you select US, you will be able to see the bikes sold for a particular year. And then once you hover around a particular model, you will be able to see the exact figure. And if you click on the model, you will be able to see the sales pattern for the 4 years, and if you can also hover here, you'll be able to see the exact quantity of the sales for these years. So you can see that you will be able to use this kind of data where you can drill down and see the data for detailed years. If you again you select a different country, you will be able to select a particular model and see how it works. So you see that this is very useful information, but you also see that there are quite a few things which are dynamic. First, the selection of a data for a particular country. So when you select DE, which is Germany, you see that the name of the country appears under the number of bikes sold. Second, whatever model you select, so if I select men's off-road bike, the exact name of the model appears here, and this entire thing is interactive. So the issue is, how would we create something like this, and what it requires to create something like this. You can notice here there are three components of this dashboard which are interactive. First is a combo box. A combo box allows you to select multiple data. One of the key features of combo box is you have to click on an arrow to see what are the available fields that you are allowed to select. And these fields should be tied to a particular data. The second is a bar chart, which is a list of products which are displayed here. A line chart is the third component in this dashboard. Line charts are useful to display data in a series format. So you have a particular data for a particular year. You just want to see how the data moves, and you also note that this data is discrete. That means you want to see what exact figure is in 2011 and what's the next figure in 2010, 2009, and 2008. So by drawing a line, you can see a trend of sales over the year. In this particular case, you can see clearly that this particular model, the sales picked up in 2009, and the sales are currently down in 2011. Okay, so this is the data, this is the dashboard that we are going to create. So let's understand, prior to creating the dashboard, what exactly we need to create such kind of dashboard. So before we even go to understand the format of the dashboard, especially the canvas, I would like to talk a little bit about the data that we are about to work with this particular dashboard. SAP Dashboard has a component which binds. So the SAP Dashboard, if you design in the design view, there are two parts. One is where you can see where you can create the design of the dashboard. The other part is the data that bounds to the dashboard. So that binding of the data has to be done, and this is what the data looks like, which is just from here to here. Now let's understand this particular data and how we are going to arrange and organize it so that we can create this dashboard. So here you see that our country there are two kinds of countries, and they're listed one after the other, and you can see the products for each country, the sales quantity for each year, and it is being organized in this way. Now, what happens when you select a particular country using a combo box? When you select a particular country, the data that you select should only be displayed. So if I select DE, I should be able to select only countries which are listed from here to here. So in essential, what is actually happening is basically you are running a query. So when you're selecting a data for a particular country, what essentially you are doing is you are basically running a query to filter this data set into the country that you are selecting. So this dynamic query is run, but in order to run the dynamic query, we have to do a little bit more. And for that, what we have to do is we need to identify what is our source data and what is the destination data. So let's understand this data once more. The first column that you see here, country, is not exactly data because we are using it for labels for the combo box. So our data is the red highlighted cell, so everything that is inside here, this is our source data. But look at carefully here, our destination data is selected right here, which means if I copy from here to here and paste it here, then that acts as a destination data. But remember that I just said our queries are run dynamically. That means if I select DE, then whatever I see here will be pasted here. But next time if I select US, whatever is pasted here will be replaced by the data that is chosen for US. It doesn't matter how many rows of US data is there, it will be simply be overridden. Similarly, again, when we choose DE, the data that we have US is always overridden. So what I'm trying to say is, by creating such kind of destination and source data, basically we are telling the software that replace the data continuously by selecting by whatever or whichever country is selected through the combo box. So basically you're not really worried about the data number of rows, because this entire thing is running dynamically when you are running the query. When I say running the query is basically when I select the combo box in the preview of the dashboard. Okay, you also see that there is a particular cell which is highlighted here, and which means that this cell will indicate which country is selected. If you notice, the name of the country appears as a subtitle on the bar chart. So if I display the data of DE, then the word DE should be shown here. If I use US data, select US data, it will show here, right? Show here. So again, we will explain this a little bit more detail, how we create a dynamic cell and how we attach with the data. And then we will understand how to filter this data further to show the line graph that we have seen. Okay, so let's start one at a time. We will first look into the database, look into the Excel sheet that we have, and let's look into the Excel data that we will be using for this particular case. This is our source data. In fact, in the database, only this much is provided. And as I selected, because we know that this is source, we created a destination data, which is here. Basically, I have copied data from here all the way to here. Just copied this and pasted it here. Now, the reason I said it before, that if I select DE, then whatever data which is shown here will be displayed here. Next time I select US, this data will be replaced by this part of the data, even if it has more rows. And similarly, again, if I select DE, that the US data which I see here will be again replaced. So this will go on and off as the query is being run in a dynamic manner. We have to also select, as you saw before, that if I select a particular, let's say if I select this particular men's off road in the bar chart, the data for this, which is this one, should be highlighted in the line graph or line chart. So that's why we need to again select only one simple row and put it here. Now, what it means here is if I select men's off-road, then I will replace this data with men's off-road with the value whichever I choose. So basically, we are filtering one. So this is the data that I'm going to use in the combo box. This is the data that will be binded with the bar chart, and this is the data that will be binded in the line chart. Okay, so let's see how do we create this kind of combo box. So we start fresh. We open a new dashboard. We open the program dashboard 4, and we click on the blank model. Once we do that, we will see that the dashboard comes in two parts. This part is called the canvas, and this part is the Excel data. So before we talk about the data, let me talk very quickly about the different parts of the dashboard. On the left-hand side, there are multiple components. So basically, you can drag and drop each or many components from here to here. And these components are organized in multiple ways. It can be organized in categories. So you all charts in one place, all containers in other place, all selectors in other place. Then you can also see it by trees. This is a better way of organization of different objects. And they can be also listed one after the other. You will see that more components that you use regularly should be placed under favorites. For example, I have used some of these. So I've been using line chart and pie chart pretty frequently to create dashboards, so they appear right in the top in the favorites. So by default, I would rather select tree as an option so that it makes sense, because I know exactly what is chart, what is selector, what is single value, so I know exactly where to click and drag. Now, when you hover your mouse on the second column, the second component is called Object Browser, which is basically all the active components in the dashboard. And if I use a query to select a dashboard or create a dashboard, then I have to use a query browser. To understand this, let's go back to the top part of the dashboard. What you see here, that I can import a spreadsheet, which is Excel file, or I can go and create a connection. So basically what it means is my data is stored in certain servers. So I have to create a new connection to connect the data so that I can establish that data with this particular dashboard. Now this becomes dynamic because anytime there is a change in the data there, that data is being reflected here. Now I need to tell at this point of time that SAP dashboard allows only certain number of rows to be displayed. It means that I will not be able to show 10,000, 20,000 records or rows here and do some analysis. Rather, the way SAP dashboard works is it summarizes the data, as you saw when I was showing you the Excel file, for a certain number of rows, and only that summarized data is displayed in the dashboard here. Now, what it means is that summarized data is fed from another data source. So if the value of the data source changes, the value of this will also change. So if, for example, if I have a sales dashboard, I'm going to create a sales dashboard, and I have a particular cell that shows sales for 2014 for a particular bike, then what's going to happen is if this cell is tied to a database which is managed by connection right here, then this is a dynamic data. So each day the sales number increases, this particular cell value, the value which is shown in this particular cell will also increase. So that becomes a very recent or current dashboard data that is displayed in the dashboard. In other words, I don't need to do anything. Every time I come and open the dashboard right on a particular day, the data will be updated. So when we talk of a query browser, instead of importing data, setting up a connection, I don't need to import the complete table. All I need to do is just add a query here. So every time I open the dashboard, that query will be run, and only the data that I require will be placed here as a temporary table. So query browser is often used. That's why this is being attached. Now, let's also talk about a few more things here. We will drag and drop different components, organize them, tie them up or bind them up with the data here. And you can see that this part looks exactly like Excel. In fact, this is a part of an Excel, and you can feed the formula. You can create multiple sheets. You can link one sheet with another sheet. And then similarly, you can create the binding of the data. Now, I would probably use this small arrow so that I can go back and forth between the dashboard and the Excel sheet without wasting much time. Now, every time I select a component in the right-hand side, I'll select the component. The left-hand side, I have different properties of that component. So these properties will be used to bind the data and do some other task. So let's go back and create this dashboard, the first dashboard that we talked about, that will display the sales figures for Germany and US for several years, 2008, 9, 10, and 11, and based on different kinds of bikes. So for this purpose, we will first do the binding of the data. So I will click the import dashboard, import spreadsheet, and I'm going to import sales dashboard 1. And once you import, you will be able to see that the data is right here. So our main data is actually this one. And as I explained to you before, let's look at further a little bit clearly. This is our data but I had to add these things in addition to that so that I would be able to create the components that I want. So this is the only data that is available to us. From here, I selected these number rows and pasted them here. And again, I selected this one and this and any of these rows and pasted them here. Okay, so now let's go back right here, and we'll put it somewhere here because we'll need to go back and forth. Let's click on components, and I need to select the data, and as I said, there are different ways of selecting data. So I'm going to use a combo box to select the country. So I'm going to select a country right here, activate the combo box, and immediately you see all the properties that are associated with the combo box are shown here. Next, I'm going to minimize this. In charts, I'm going to select the bar chart. So I'm going to put it right here. And later you can organize them by size, by filling up their background, the color, and all of this stuff. But the first step is just to make sure that they work properly, and then we can work on designing it better. Then we are going to use select a bar chart, and let's scroll down. Okay, yeah, here there is line chart, and we will put it right here. So we have combo box, bar chart, and line chart. These are the three active objects that we would be using in this dashboard. And we can also create a label here that will say sales dashboard for Germany and US. Just create a label right here. Okay, this will basically a text box we'll create here. Let's just work on this and make sure that they are active. Now let's look at the object browser. Because we have selected these three, and in fact we can rename them because we might use many kinds of combo boxes, so we can rename them combo box 1. So once we rename them, we will see that this also changes. We have the option to make the combo box visible or invisible. So if we right now I made the combo box invisible, the reason this feature is there is sometimes we might have multiple objects which are being selected, but only certain objects might be displayed at a time. So it makes sense to select this multiple objects. That's why there's a visibility feature. Either I can hide it or I can unhide it. As I said, it makes sense to replace rename it. So I can say this is as combo box for country selection. It makes sense because if I have multiple objects which are similar, then it would be better to have renaming these objects. Okay, so we talked about objects. Now let's start working with the first modification of the combo box. So we select the combo box here, and I can write in the title first. I will write the title of the combo box first, and the title we can put here is a simple title such as select a country. Okay, I'll put a colon here, which means that, okay, my task here is to select a country. Now, I already told you that we need to show clearly which is the source and destination data here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first say that labels. What are the labels that we have? As you can see, I said here that this is not data, but this is label because this should be displayed here. So I'm going to select labels from the cells that I highlight. So basically the way to put the labels here, either I can type directly. If I type directly, then it will be not dynamic. That means I will have just only one label. But if I use this one, this arrow, the red arrow, I will create a range, and this will be more as a dynamic. I can also type labels. If I click here, I can see what are the labels that have been selected. So if I need to highlight the cells that I would be using for a particular series. So here I'm going to select this particular arrow, and my labels is B4 to B19, and I click OK. Once I do that, that means our list of countries is from here. Now, I also need to tell you that a default way of data insertion in this particular case is called insertion by filtered row. That means if I select a particular country, I am filtering the rows and only allowing the display of certain number of rows, not every rows. For that, I need to go and change, which I call it as filtered rows. And you see here, if I click on this particular labels, you will see that only two labels appear, DE and US. If I don't select filter row, if I do something else and click here, then you will see that labels would be much more because this is not filtered. So I should be able to select insertion type, filtered rows, and then um, attach the rest of the data here. Now you can also see that the data that I've selected here, there is no default data. So it will be a problem because I need to see something right here that allows the user to understand that, okay, there is a country here and probably some more countries listed here. If it is blank, it is not a good design view. So to fix that, I can do that very quickly. I can go to behavior. In item, I will select either label 1 or label 2. If I select label 1, DE will appear. If I select label 2, US will appear. So if I select label 1, that means I want to create that as a default value. Okay, so this is pretty simple and fixed. Let's come back to general, and let's first tie our source data and destination data from here. So the source data is, as I said, it will start from here all the way till here. Okay, before that, I should be, so this is my select a country. Okay, I'm going to show that here later. So my source data is from here all the way till here because this is all we have. If we had some more data, some more countries, I'll select everything here. You also notice that I'm selecting data for only 2011 because I want to display that data for here. That means the data that will appear here is only for 2011. But line chart will show data for each particular bike for all the 4 years. So I'm going to select the source data. So the first I have highlighted the cells that I decide or I consider to be the sales, the source data, which is C4 to G19, and then I click on source data, C4 to, sorry, it should be G19, though, okay, let's select everything. Let's select everything because later when I'm going to select not just 20, though I'm selecting displaying 2011, I'm going to show everything here because later, as you see here, I want to display all data for all years right here. So I would select everything from here to here, although I would just display here only 2011 data. So I'm going to select our source data from C4 to all the way to G19. And I click on here, C4 to G19 and make it okay. So my source data is being shown here. And then, as I said, it will be the filtered, the row will be appearing here. So I need to also say the destination. And here my destination is C22 to G29. So let's click on this one. So C22 G29 is my destination. So basically, if I select a country on the source data, the part of it will be displayed here, and that part is this destination data. You can also be able to understand a little bit better by clicking on this small animation here where it shows exactly the concept of the filtered rows. As you can see here, filtered rows means using a combo box, you select one particular row and one particular value, for example A, then all A will be copied and pasted to a different target row, which is being called as a destination data. So you just need to select one, and then whenever you create, you will be able to copy that. Now you also notice that by default you can see that the number of rows that you select in the destination, that rows doesn't change. But though you can have more number of rows that will be shown here. This is just a concept of filtered row. That means the next time I paste US, I might have 10 rows, 15 rows, but I will still show destination this rows at just once. Okay, so we have bounded the data. Now we have to be careful here. I want to display this data here. So my destination data should match with the bar chart that I see here. Now this is, let's check the behavior of the combo box, and here the label here is the B21, which is right here. This B21 should also be shown here, B21, and you will be able to understand why did I do that later, because this data will appear here in my next part, which is the bar chart. So when I tie the bar chart, I'll tie two things here. Tie this particular cell, because this is also filtered row coming from here. When I select a country, US or D will appear. So this one will be tied here, and this one will be attached B21 here when I work with the bar chart. Okay, now let's go and work with the bar chart here. In the bar chart, as I said, we will be able to show the dynamic data here and attach this with the destination data, which is right here. So in bar chart, I'm going to write here as number of bikes sold in 2011. Now remember that the data that I chose has actually more than just 2011 data. It has data for everything, but I'm only displaying first four. Now why did I select every data but still displaying only 2011? The answer is, when I click on one particular bike, I should be able to show that in my line chart in details. So if I have to select all data, though I'm displaying only the data for 2011. Okay, here remember I already attached I made the field dynamic in when I did this on the combo box. So in sample subtitle, you can see that if I type something here, it will be a permanent subtitle. I will not be able to change it. But if I put a cell that can hold certain value and can change over a period of time, then I would use a cell, which is highlighted right here. So right now I'm going to click on this and select B21. So my number of bikes sold will appear, there will be a subtitle which country I've selected. Now let's click the range. So I don't need to do anything here. When I go to the range, I have to select the source of this range. So C22 to D29, because I need to show data for only one particular year, 2011. Though I would be able to get data for multiple years here as well. So now you might ask that why didn't I select all 4 years, then I would be able to see all four data. The reason being, there would be duplication of information here. If I do that, I would get four different colors of bar, but again I'm showing in much more in the same data here for individual bike. So I would rather focus of the bikes sold in 2011, and when I click a model, I should be able to see the details of these bikes right here. Okay, so my range is selected here. It should be C22 to D29. Okay, and that's what I have done here. Let me select the series here. So here also the values x-axis range. Okay, no, let me select by range, and by my data is in columns. And here I will have to do one more thing here. I will create a category label here. Okay, so the label is shown as C22 to C29. It chooses this particular let's see, yeah, it chooses right here. I can add them right here because this is the label. So it already figured it out automatically that C22 to C29 is labels, and the rest of it is about data. Okay, I also need to tell that what series I'm displaying here. So where are my values here? X-axis will show what. So the data that we have is D22 to D29, D22 to D29. This is the data that I have to put here. So I have to show this data. So this value should appear here. The way I can get it is I can create a series here, multiple series, but I want to show only series 1, which is right here. So I will delete all other series. Yeah. So I just have only one series here. So basically, I'll click on plus. I'll make sure that I select only first series, which is right here, and then the values is automatically shown here. So in other words, by selecting the range, I would be able to uh, show the data in columns. You can see the data is in 2011 in columns, and the values, that is what should be displayed here and what should be the label. So basically the range is divided into two parts. D22 to D21 is 29. This is the data and this is the label. So this is divided into, this whole thing is divided into two parts. Okay. So now as I have fixed this, you will see immediately that this is being organized. We can a little bit organize it in a better format so that I can read the data in a particular way. And then the next thing that I would do is from here I should be able to insert. When I click here, the data should be inserted into the line chart. Okay, because then this data is inserted here. So therefore I need to activate this enable data destination, and because we only have one series, automatically by default the series will come here. If you have multiple series, then we have to indicate which particular series of data we have to put there. Now by interaction type is mouse click, so once I click on a particular bar, only that data will be displayed here. Okay, I would be interested also in one more thing here, which is my data is looking like it's not sorted. It's difficult to read. So I'm going to go to behavior, and I will click on enable sorting, and I would choose ascendings to make sure that the data is being sorted in ascending order. So I need to work on general, insertion, and behavior to make sure that this works. Now let's go and click on the preview. Remember, we haven't fixed the line chart yet because that data has to be shown here. So if I select a particular country, you can see that it changes, and this part also changes. That means my country and my combo box and the byte that I'm showing here, they both are working. So these two components are working. I have not tied the data from here to here, which I'll do right now. And if I do that, all the components will be interactive and working. So let's focus on the line chart. In the line chart, we will work on first the general properties of the line chart. So in line chart, I'm going to write here as sales quantity, development. Okay. In the subtitle, I'm going to select this particular cell because this will change all the time. So if I select one particular product description, whatever the product that I select will be displayed here. So in sample, instead of saying sample subtitle, I will say that it is C32, this particular cell. So I'm going to click here and say C32. As you see here, whatever the cell is being shown here. Here, the general, and I'm going to also do one more thing here, is my data is in series here. So if I click on here, my series is basically the description here, which is C31 to G32 right here. C31. This is what I'm interested in here, and this is what I should show here, which I'll display. Okay, so to do that, I'm going to click on the series here, which is selected one, C31 to G32. And once I do that, automatically the first cell is highlighted here, C31 to G32. Now look at carefully that this is organized in a little bit different way. I'm not interested in data in columns, but rather I'm interested in data in rows, because I want to display data here in rows, not in columns. So previously when I did this, I was interested to display the data in columns, and that's why we are organized in that manner. Here I'm interested in data in particular rows, especially in series wise, so I have to select that. The y values, which is basically the numbers, is not shown here automatically. So I will go and select D32 to this numbers. So I'm going to click Y here and D32 to this number, and you can see that the data is displayed here. The x-axis data is not shown here, so I have to tell exactly what is the x-axis. Now x-axis is not going to change because every time I'm going to click, I'm going to see data for only 4 years. So, but still I have to tell exactly where the x-axis is coming from. So I'll click here, and I have only 4 data to show, D31 to G31, and this is my data that is being shown here. So what did I do? Change the changes that I did here. Okay, I also need to say that what is this data is about. So I can tell that this number. Okay, this is clear. 2011, 2010, 209. Okay, so I can write here an year. So I can do that, but it is pretty obvious that it denotes year. But this is not clear what these numbers are. So I'm going to in x-axis in y-axis I'm going to write number of bikes sold. Okay, so I know exactly what this number mean. So if I go and check on the preview and try to see whether all 3 components are connected or not, we'll see that if I select a particular bike, okay, still we need to fix some other part and then come back and make sure that it's interactive. But at least we have some data here which shows that the data that is connected from, there is a connection from here to here. I know exactly what the problem is, and we'll go and fix that right now. So there is number of bikes sold SO. Okay. Now remember, the reason this, when I click on here, data is not transferred from here to here because the data has to be literally inserted. Okay, literally inserted, and therefore we have to ensure that the insertion that we hear is done. Right now this is not activated. So when I click on this one, enable data insertion, and automatically the series name comes here because there is only one series. What happens is if I click on one row, that data has to be inserted here, which is right here. Okay, so if I click on deluxe touring bike silver, that data has to be copied and pasted right here. So that insertion was not happening, so that's why there was no interactive component here. Now you can check here that again the insertion in the interaction type is mouse click. That means if I just hover, my mouse is not going to happen. I have to literally click on a particular bar, and once I do that, only then the data will be pasted from here to here. So that is a mode of interaction on how to insert the data. Insertion type is position, which is not filtered row. Position means you literally have to insert the data. For example, here it shows that how to position a data, how to insert a data from a line chart, which is different from here. That means if I click on a data on a line chart, that value will be copied and pasted in a table. That's what it shows here. But here we have done it in a little bit different way. Here instead of line chart, we have the bar chart. That means if I click on a particular bar, the data is copied from that bar to a line chart. Okay, so I think we fixed the general properties. We fixed the insertion properties, and now let's look at the preview and see whether the 3 components are interactive or not. So I have DE, I have select US. Okay, so if I okay, still there is something that I have to go and fix it because I see after insertion the data is still not interactive. So let me go back and fix it, and then we will see that how all these. Okay, so let's figure out that why this is not connected to this. The main reason, if you can notice here, that if you recall that we first selected, when we selected a combo box, the filtered rows were selected from here to here. That means multiple rows were copied from here to here. Now from here, we need to copy one row at a time. So our insertion method is not insertion type, not position, but by row, one row at a time. Now, when we do that, one row at a time, we need to make sure that the source data and destination data are fixed in a certain way that insertion type is automatically pasted here. So one row at a time will be pasted here, and that data will be displayed. So once we say that data from this multiple rows, only one row at a time will be pasted, we need to tell from where to where. So therefore, and because these destinations are not set yet, so therefore when we click on here, there is no link from here to here, because though this is correct, it shows the data for a particular set of years, but that data has to come from years. So we need to say the source data. The source data, we have to say clearly that this is the source data from C22 to G29, and then the destination data is G32, the C32 to G32, C32 to G32. So this is our destination data. So now our data is set from to display the destination data, and that destination data is now connected here. So if I now click on preview, because now I have set it up in a certain way that all three are connected, we should be able to see some interaction. Now we see here, first I'm going to select a country. So let's select US, and then you see that this data is already sorted out. So once I click on a particular bike, silver, that bike name appears here, the name of US appears here, and then the pattern of the data is appearing here. So you can see that these three are interactive components. You can create a title of this dashboard and make it a little bit format and make it a little bit better, and that will be the dashboard that we wanted to, and also like to create a go back and change the name of the save this particular dashboard in a certain way. Now I would like to emphasize one thing, that you can realize that creating a SAP dashboard requires a lot of efforts a priori. For example, when I select a country here, my default combo box is filtered rows, because I need to filter multiple rows. If I had selected only row, then only one row will be copied at a time. That means only one bar will be displayed here. But because I selected multiple filtered rows, I should be able to see multiple rows. Second, when I click on the bar charts, the insertion type, as you see here, is row wise, because I want to display data for one particular row only, not multiple rows, because line chart can display only one row of data at a time. If I had to use some other type, I might, if I had to use a bar chart again to show, or some other kind of, let's say pie chart, then we have to figure it out what kind of insertion it is. So if I want to use bar chart to line chart, my insertion type is row, because I'm inserting one row at a time. Insertion type is mouse click, so, and I have to tell in advance that what is my source and destination. Once I click here, I see what is source, what is destination. You can change it, but right now it is not highlighted. That means it has been already determined. Next, when I click on the line chart, I know that the insert, first of all, I tell exactly that what the data is shown here. As you see, the data is exactly D32 to G32. That data is coming from here, one row at a time. And insertion type here is not filtered row, not row, but position, because I'm just showing the position of the data here. So we have to create a dashboard in SAP. You need to identify the components, how the data will be copied and pasted from one component to other, how the data will be linked, and then the whole dashboard should work by testing one at a time, and you will be able to create a nice dashboard with quite a few elements like this. So this is the first dashboard we created using our SAP components. You can create multiple other dashboards where you can create other kinds of components which we haven't so far. One of the most important components which are used in SAP is the concept of dial and gauge. So I can show a gauge to like a sales gauge and so display the data here, or I can show in a progress bar or a dial where I can literally move the dial to see the effect of a particular value such as sales. Now, I think compared to other kind of dashboards, Gauge and Dial are very useful single value displayers. You would be able to see dual sliders and other kind of features in other dashboards such as Tableau, but I think Dial and Gauge is very important um concepts that can be displayed in SAP dashboard. So that concludes the video lesson where we talked about the introduction of what is a dashboard, what's the main purpose of it. Then we talked about different kinds of components that we use in a dashboard, such as charts, containers, selectors, values, single values. And then with a small case study, we tied the data with three different components and make that interactive. The final thing that we can do is, we have this nice dashboard, but we might like to send this to somebody, let's say our manager or boss, who would like to see exactly what we did. And it might happen that the person to whom we are sending might not have the SAP dashboard with, in his or her computer. So we can actually just create Adobe file on the file, or we can import this on a PowerPoint, import this on a Word, and it will be equally interactive in same as in PowerPoint and Word or in Adobe. In other words, you really don't need to, the person who is viewing this dashboard, that person doesn't need to have SAP dashboard installed in his or her computer. So right now I have given a command to show how to display the data here, and it will take a couple of minutes to create this interactive dashboard in a PDF file, which should open in any flash-based computer. So if you have installed, if you are working, most likely it should work in any Windows-based computer where Adobe Acrobat is installed. For example, now you can see here, I can minimize it and I can just send this particular file to show how interactive this is. You can see that I can click on it and then see exactly how it works. And as I told you before, this is just a simple PDF file. So this PDF file is, if you look at the size of it, it's a little bit big because it has this interactive component to the Flash file, and the data itself is binded here. So you still don't need to use any SAP dashboard to view this particular file.